Stop podcast surfing. You're in the right place. I've always wanted to sing. Hi, everyone. I am your host, Kimbralon B. I'm a licensed counselor, but I'm not your counselor. And I'm also the host of Good Tea and Reads. So I created Good Tea and Reads so we could use everyday topics, issues, and current events to explain the importance of mental health awareness. Most mental health discussions are so important because so many people suffer in silence or do not realize that they're dealing with mental health issues because of stigma, society, and family expectations, and other reasons. Some episodes on Good Tea and Reads are heavy and will make us think. Other episodes will be very enlightening or refreshing. But either way, you will have an awesome experience. Here's the disclaimer. Any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is not a substitute for seeking professional care from another professional. Any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is not meant to diagnose the subjects or persons discussed on this podcast. Also, any information shared on this show is for conversational, inspirational, and educational purposes as well. So, all right, this intro is long enough. All right, so go grab your cups really quick. Go, 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 go. So I can pour this piping hot tea. Meet me inside on this episode in one, two, three. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Good Tea and Reads. I am your hostess with the mostest, Kimbralon B. That's me. How are you doing? Hope all is well. Everyone, I am excited and I am so glad to share with each and every one of you that I am getting back into my routine of engaging in self care and I'm actually reading books again. Physical books, y'all. It feels so good. I really haven't read a physical book, I don't know in how long. And I've been using my audiobooks. Don't get it twisted. I still like my audiobooks, but ooh, holding those books, it feels so good. So I am glad. And I want to say thank you, listener, because me talking about self care challenged myself to get my routine back in play. And it's actually helping me feel really good. So, y'all, I have to give y'all a couple of updates on my last episode. If you didn't catch it, you got to go catch it because I talked about making this major purchase. And I was like, I'm not keeping that. And they were like, yes, you are. And I was like, oh, baby, no. And they was like, we'll see. Anyway, y'all, check this out. They was right. They were right. I found out that the state that I live in, there's no change your mind period. Once you sign on that dotted line, that major purchase is yours. You are married to that thing and you are committed to that thing until you pay it off, right? So, anyway, they were right. But the salesman at the place was like, look. I know it was pretty rough, but we got to the end. So I hope that you happy. And I was like, you right. It was rough. It wasn't rough because of him. It was rough because of me. But anyway, they threw in some benefits anyway. And I was like, okay, you know what? Next time. Yeah, but so the conclusion is I got this major purchase, so I'm just navigating that, y'all. So all is well. So then my second update was on the last episode, I talked about changing the name of my show. And I was like, is this a good idea? And my consultant was like, "Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I like the name, but I don't think you should change Good Tea and Reads." And I was like, I don't think I should change it either. Especially when I was playing around yesterday on the computer, y'all, and I cranked out this logo and I was like, okay. It was a logo, a new one for Good Tea and Reads. Let me tell y'all, AI is the thing. I mean, we created AI and AI is going to put us out of work. But anyways, that's neither here or there. But I created a logo. I just said, look, I want my logo to blah, 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 to look like this and boom, blah, blah, and pop, 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 da, 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 da. And guess what? It cranked out that logo that I like. And it also cranked out a few others. I was like, no, you can't even spell Good Tea and Reads right, AI. So guess what? We all not gonna be out of a job because if you keep spelling like that, you gonna have to go back to school yourself. But anyway, so I created this logo. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and just keep Good Tea and Reads. And there's a section I'm going to add to some of my shows called Not Your Counselor, because I do say that I am a licensed counselor, which I am, but I am not your counselor. I don't want you to take the show and take advice from the show. So I am a counselor, but I'm not your counselor. And so I will throw in some mental health nuggets along the way under the Not Your Counselor moment. So, more to come on that. Had to share that. All right. So, moving on. So, of course, I always have a ton of things I want to talk about. But at Good Tea and Reads, I like to talk about everyday topics. And to be honest with you, I did have something planned. Yes, I say it all the time. But I want you to know that I do prepare because I want to make sure that I give each and every one of you my very best, right? So I just want you to know that. However, there was a topic that I was looking at the news. Not sure if you all watch news. Some people avoid news. I watch news because I always like to speak on the mental health perspective of things. And there was an article or a situation that just tugged at my heart. So I followed it, and unfortunately it came to a tragic outcome. And I wanted to talk about it on the show because of some of the circumstances that's around it that I saw. And this was the story on Giovanni Pelletier. Apologies if I'm saying the last name wrong. But I was looking at Yahoo's News, and I just want to read that article to you listeners. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may not be familiar, but I do want to just highlight some of the points from this unfortunate story. All right, so the headline was Giovanni Pelletier missing. Teen sent chilling text prior to disappearing. So, Giovanni was an 18-year-old boy from North Carolina, and he had not been seen or heard from since August 1st. And that was the same day he sent his mother a frightening two-word text message. Giovanni was on a family trip to Florida with his mother, Bridget, her fiance, Jeremy Brown, and Giovanni's four younger siblings when he vanished the early morning hours of Friday. It says last Friday. But the purpose of the trip was for Giovanni to connect with his father's side of the family after years of estrangement. And that's what his mother told People magazine. Bridget also said that her son had arranged for three of his cousins on his father's side to pick him up from where he was staying in Inglewood, Florida. And they did that around 1:30 a.m. on August 1st. A short time later, things got worrisome. Bridget, and that's Giovanni's mom, said that within 30 minutes of being picked up by his cousins, Giovanni texted her twice. One of the messages simply said, "Mom, help." Giovanni also tried calling his mother at 1:56 a.m. and 1 minute later on FaceTime. And the teen also reached out to his aunt and grandfather when he couldn't reach her. Unfortunately, Bridget did not see the calls and messages until 6:20 a.m. on that Friday when she awoke. She also said there was a missed call from one of the cousins who had picked Giovanni up. "He only called me that one time," Bridget referred to the call from the son's cousin. "And then no effort was made to communicate with me. No effort was made to come back to the house to let me know." So later on, Bridget said that Giovanni's paternal grandfather left her a voicemail claiming that her son had an altercation with his cousins, who left him on the side of the road in Bradenton. The grandfather said he did not have all of the information, but wished to be notified when Giovanni was located. Eventually, the cousin who had attempted to call Bridget early Friday morning got in touch with her. He said Giovanni got into an argument with them over smoking marijuana, and it led to a fight on the roadside, during which the boy said Giovanni pulled out a knife. When that happened, they said they wrestled the knife from him, and then Giovanni took off running. Bridget said that she recovered her son's phone and backpack, which had been left on the side of the road. Bridget said, "My son eats, sleeps, showers, and breathes his phone," she added, saying he wouldn't have left it there. The investigation into Giovanni's disappearance spanned from North Carolina to Florida, and there was unfortunately no updates at that time when they were searching until yesterday. It was confirmed that a body was found, and they confirmed that to be Giovanni. That was so unfortunate. I read the story, I followed the story, and it was really heartbreaking. And me, I actually, whatever article I'm reading, I go in the comments. There were some heartfelt comments, going out to the family, going out to the mom. I couldn't relate to getting that type of news. I have an 18-year-old myself. There was also the rigmarole type comments, where people just say anything that's just off the mark. Of course, it doesn't matter what type of article it is. It's always someone jumping in there on some little silly stuff. But then a few comments caught my eyes where it says, how could the mom let him go by himself to visit with strangers? Why didn't she go? Why didn't they take Giovanni? She didn't know those people. He didn't know those people. Why would Giovanni keep trying to call his mom? Why didn't he call 911? I just find it so unsettling how people get into victim blaming and shaming. This is bad enough. He was going through whatever he was going through. We still don't have all of the details at the time of the recording of this podcast. We can't imagine what his mom is going through. She was studying for an exam, and she was up. She missed his calls. She missed his cries for help. Like, we don't have to say the whys and why didn't he do that. They both were going through. He was going through that experience, and then her waking up to that. She's already beating herself up, right? Sometimes people can make it seem like, well, she should have been awake. She should have been awake for 24 hours. Like, stop blaming people. And unfortunately, the unsettling outcome has happened. His body has been found. Yes, she's wanting privacy now to make those arrangements, but still, everyone, there's unanswered questions as to how he got there, what happened in between that she's having to deal with, and having to deal with her own guilt, possibly of missing the calls, right? Having to console the younger siblings because that was their older siblings, and they were on a family trip. That's a lot that goes into that. But the point that I want to talk about from the mental health perspective is not the trauma related to what Giovanni's mom, Bridget, is going through, or possibly what Giovanni went through, or what the family is going through. I can't speak to that. I don't want to make any improper assumptions since the story isn't out and it's still ongoing and the investigation is still going on. I do not want to speak on that or misspeak on anything or any situation. But what I do want to talk about, and this is the title of this episode, and that's the T of a child growing up without one or both of their biological parents and the impact on mental health. Giovanni was on a mission to reconnect with his father's people. And I think when we start breaking everything down, trying to do the would've, could've, and should've, I think we forget that piece. There was a void that Giovanni was trying to fill. Giovanni was not trying to go down there and meet his fate. That wasn't his thing. He was trying to fill a void. And I want us to talk about that. Of course, we know, sorry, everyone, that bio parents don't stay together. They, for whatever reasons, they may not stay together. Who knows? They may not have been together in the first place. It may be a solo parent household where there may be artificial insemination involved, right? There's different makeups to different parental households now. But either way, when one or both bio parents are missing, there is that possibility that that child may experience a void, right? And it's not saying that the bio parent that may be present is doing a good job, not doing a good job. That bio parent may have a partner or a spouse or someone stepping in to help raise that child, or it may be another family member or a close friend that's raising their child. I'm not saying that they're doing a bad job. They could be a darn good replacement. They may have been better than that bio person, but unfortunately, there's still a void. And while we're talking about this today, I challenge you, if you are an adult, to look at this from the lens of a child. Because adults, we have life, and we have endured different experiences that brought us into a place of whatever our wisdom levels look like, right? But if we go back into the mind of Giovanni, even though Giovanni had mom was probably super mom, Giovanni wanted to know dad, wanted to inquire about his dad, wanted to know that family. That was the intent. Nothing about that was unusual. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm really going to probably chop that title down by the time I publish this show. I know it's pretty long, but I just was coming up with this title I wanted to share. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the impact on mental health when a child grows up without one or both their biological parents. All right, so here is this article. It says individuals who did not live with their parents during their minor years were more likely to report worse physical and mental health in adulthood compared to those who lived with both their parents. All right. So now remember, these are statistics because sometimes two-parent households may or may not be the healthiest either, right? Um, Being a counselor, I have provided counselors to clients who have grown up in two-parent households. And some of the things that they witnessed and they had to process, baby, that's another show for another day. But just know that that absence of one parent, and that's what we're focused on today, can cause mental health challenges that we're getting ready to explore today. So just stick with me on that, okay? Again, it is no shade to single parent households. I raised my children as a single mom. I did. So it's not that I think I'm above now and I've arisen. No, it's not that kind of party. We are just talking about the mental health impact, okay? And how we can actually help children that are dealing with that void navigate their emotions as they continue to grow, and go through adulthood and start their own families. Um, the absence of parents in the household has long term impacts on the physical and mental health of children in adulthood, especially for females. And the reason it is for females as compared to males, because females are emotional beings. We act on emotions, we go off emotions. We're more emotional than men. Okay. Not saying that we're weaker and we're all over the place. We are. We operate with feelings, right? We do. Men, they mostly are sticking with the facts. They're mostly financial. You know, we could just be falling apart at the seams and they're just like, yes, yes, uh-huh. Yeah, I understand. But so that's definitely why it would impact females more. All right. So let me see what I want to go to next, y'all. There's so much I want to cover. Talking about this situation again, I'm just speaking from the standpoint of a child growing up without one or both of their biological parents. I want to keep saying that. I do not want to say that this was Giovanni's situation, okay? So let's see. All right, here we go. Parenting is a process and a state of being a parent. It includes nourishing, protecting, and guiding a child through development. Ideally, the best outcomes may be if both biological parents are in place to do that, as long as the biological parents are healthy. I will throw that in with an asterisk. Again, in the world that we're in today, unfortunately, some relationships may not last. Some people may choose to be a solo parent. So we do know, as long as there's nourishing, protecting, and guidance available through that child's development, there's a chance that they will stay on the right track. Okay? Traditionally, parenting was actually linked to gender roles, right? Mom raise the kids, dad go to work. We know for decades that's how it's been thought of. That's how it's depicted on television. But we do know over the times it has definitely changed, right? So both parents are now working to bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. Higher incomes. Some women may make more money than men, right? So, in gender equality, that there has been a shift in the paradigm of the families, right? And the roles are now pretty neutral. Sometimes mom may go out and work, and dad's actually in school getting an education to go get that career because dad was actually sacrificing his education to keep bread and bacon on the table while mom was raising the children. So they figure out how to work it out. Um, Over time, whether it was divorce or widows, separation from the partners, an unplanned pregnancy, um, choosing to be a single parent, or becoming a single parent through donor insemination or adopting. We're have these type of households that are emerging, right? So it has shifted definitely. Globally, the United States and the United Kingdom have the highest number of children in single parent households. In the United States, it is 23%, and in the United Kingdom, it is 21%. And on average, there are around 6.8% of children living in single parent households worldwide. So, single parent households is just not an epidemic here in the United States, it spans all over the globe. Okay? A few decades ago, the death of the spouse used to be the common cause of the rise in single parent households. Whereas now, as I mentioned before, we see that the paradigm has shifted and there's multiple contributions to a single parent household. It doesn't necessarily have to be something negative that happens, like death, divorce, an affair, rape. It could be I just want to have a child and raise my child by myself. So there is still an impact that can happen, whether it was a choice to be a single parent by yourself or if it was just better and ideal and more healthy for you and your children to become a single parent household. Um, So let's talk about the various age groups of single parenting, how it impacts children. Studies have shown mixed findings on how single parenting impacts children's physical health and development. Some studies showed that there were due to differences in the socioeconomic status, and others reported a negative impact of single parenting on factors such as child mortality, homicide, and childhood stunting. Wow. So it could definitely be differences on the socioeconomic status because typically in single parent households, if there is an impact on that single parent continuing their education or finding a job so they can be home in enough time to make sure that their children are eating and that homework is being completed, that may impact the amount of income that's being brought into the house. Not only that, with the income and the housing situation, it can definitely impact the type of food that the child and the parent or the children in the household are eating. Sometimes, if we're not bringing enough money home, we may have to adjust what we buy to feed our children. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not the healthiest. You know what I've learned? That the affordable food is the most unhealthiest food out there. How do I know? I'm not condemning it because I eat, unfortunately, mostly unhealthy. And it's much more affordable for me to buy the unhealthy things that come in a value meal than for me to go to the store and find like organic this, organic that. That stuff is sky high sometimes. And sometimes you just cannot, you know, you can't even afford to feed your children, right? And then if unfortunately you don't have enough money or enough funds, especially now in the state that I live in, it's hot here. The electricity is through the roof, and you may have to adjust your air conditioner, or you may or may not have air conditioning, which can impact somebody's thought. If it's too hot, you can't really think that well. And then, especially if it's hot, you really can't get adequate sleep at night because you're so uncomfortable. But that parent is doing what they can with what they have. And some parents, I don't want to do the woe is me. Some parents probably have to work like two jobs or 12-hour shifts, and they make decent pay, fabulous pay. But their children may have to, fend for themselves, or they may be with a babysitter. Again, even though the babysitter's there, we're talking about somebody being there, and that could be the best babysitter ever. But that babysitter is not the responsibility of, or should I say, not responsibility, not responsible solely for the nourishing that's needed from the child, right? For making sure that a child feels safe and secure. That is the responsibility of the parent. So they may not be able to fully take that role on, and they can do so much. Again, there's still that little void. All right. And typically, when the bio parents are not together, or if a parent is trying to navigate this as a solo parent and they may be engaged in a relationship, there may be conflict that arises either with that child having to navigate that child, or in that relationship, which can definitely impact that child. So, with the intensification of the conflict between parents, if there is that conflict, or if there's a conflict between whoever that parent's involved with, whatever that conflict looked like, the emotional and behavioral problems among children intensifies, whether the parent is married or divorced, right? It doesn't matter. There is still that possibility for emotional and behavioral problems. And the risk of negative impact depended on whether the conflict's nature and character were more focused on the child, and the frequency and degree of violence involved in the parental conflicts. It also says that children face less levels of stress and anxiety if parents demonstrated an excellent capacity to solve conflicts during the process of separation. So, if the parent is not together, again, I talked about there is a void that exists, but the parent is trying to co parent with that other parent. Please, I encourage you to make sure that that co parenting looks healthy. I was going to say is healthy. I should go back and say look healthy too, because y'all, these kids can read through. They can read through fake. Trust me and believe. They have told me so much in counseling. I've actually had kids tell me, My parents think we don't know that they hate each other. I wish they get a divorce. I've heard that. And then the parents, they come together and they put up this unified front, y'all. You can't fool these kids. These kids will call you out in a minute. They will. They will call you out. But if parents learn how to co-parent, it would be so ideal. And I want to throw this in as being a licensed counselor. I know you hear about couples counseling, family counseling, and some people, I don't want to be in that same room with that beep, 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 beep. Or I don't want to be in the same room with that beep. Here's the thing. You all are not in there to just work things out and become the best couple you can be. But really, family counseling, and they call it conjoint counseling, can help both parents learn how to co-parent in a healthy way. That's what can happen also in counseling, because usually sitting down doesn't work in certain relationship situations. Get that neutral person in, go see you a therapist, y'all go, whatever you need to do. I'm gonna tell you, these counselors or these therapists, they can work with it. I don't care what type of smoke that you bring in there, as long as it's not any illegal smoke, okay? No violence. Don't bring violence in there, because you're going to find yourself taking a trip downtown to the police station. So don't come in there on that type of smoke. But I'm saying, if there's areas like real touchy topics, those counselors or those therapists, they're equipped to handle that thing, and they'll be able to handle it for you, okay? And to teach y'all strategies how to get along. And if y'all can't get along, learning how to put strategies in place so the both of you can focus on what's best for the child. Okay? All right. So, and then usually counseling, what I want to throw in also, if parents are breaking up, the family counseling can help with couples that have decided to separate. And the counselor or therapist, you could go see either one, will sit down and work with both parents, and then eventually bring the kids in, and everyone work together on what this separation would look like. Because typically when parents split up, even though that child may see the parents arguing, throwing stuff, whatever that looks like. And remember, I tell you, kids see everything. Um, Kids will also, unfortunately, take blame for their parents not being together. They'll think it's because of them. Some of these parents have actually told children that it's because of them, which that's a, ooh, yeah, all right, I'm gonna stay in my counseling role. Please remember, listeners, that I am human first and therapist second, but that really, ooh, it chaps my hide when that happens. I cannot stand that. But there are, unfortunately, parents that do that. There's parents out here that say, why am I stuck raising the kids? Why can't the mom? Why can't the dad? Why can't they do it? It doesn't matter if they out there living their best life and you know that they're super unhealthy. You would rather say you want to see your kids go out there so you can go do what you need to do. But that's neither here or there. Let me get back to the article, because I was about to go on a tangent. Immediately after parental divorce, separation, remarriage, when kids cope with the new situation and confusion, they experience emotional distress, anxiety, depression, and behavioral problems such as anger, resentment, and non-compliance. So this is immediately after. Remember, when children see something, a lot of people don't realize that children are, I like to say, egocentric. What egocentric means, they see things their way. For example, have you ever saw a child, like been around like a 3 or 4 year old, and they tell you, um, there's an airplane in the sky and you look up, you don't see anything, and you like, no, there isn't. They say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then they're going back and forth with you. Some of them get mad at you. They may come over there and try to punch you in your leg or bite you when you disagree with them. They view the world how they want to view the world. And that happens during the younger years, right? That's how you get into these little arguments with them. And they be fired up too, these little kids do. So giving that, if they see that their parents are supposed to be together, then their parents are supposed to be together. That parent is not supposed to be with Miss New Booty, or she's not supposed to be with Mr. Gray Sweats. That ain't how this go. I want you both to be together. Y'all not supposed to be with somebody else. And guess what? Because I think you don't need to be with somebody else, I'm going to fight. I'm going to act out. I'm going to probably be really sad. I'm going to be tantrum all over the place, whatever that looks like. Or you ask me to do something, I may just go off on you as a child. And it says that these responses diminish as time passes in most children, but a few experience delayed effects. They appear to adjust well in the early stages, but have difficulties later. So, again, some children may act out because they egocentric. Some, when they get a little older, just feel like I'm just going to go with the flow, that parent is gone. I don't know where that parent's at. But now my mom or my dad, they're in a new relationship. This person's around. This person's either taking my mom or dad's time, or they're showering all of us with gifts. It's this big honeymoon stage where everybody's together. We going camping together. We going on trips together. And then after a while, that stops, right? Because we get into those routines where work is important. And instead of us being on this emotional high, I'm in this relationship with my boo, we have this family thing going on. Now it's just, hello, hello, have a good day at work. You too. We're not up on each other, like we used to be. Now we just in our regular routine. And as a matter of fact, while you're in there, just go fix my food and tell them kids to be quiet in there. So once that routine starts to set in and things start to change, their parent may not be paying attention to them that much, or the new person may not be paying attention. That parent may be dealing with the ebbs and flows of being a single parent, relationship after relationship, whether it's lasting, not lasting, whether it's going good or it's not going good. They're having to navigate income, jobs, just holidays, all those times. Everything is just constantly changing. That children of single parents can develop negative feelings about themselves during these times. They can start to feel unwanted, have reduced self esteem, and constantly compare themselves with children living with both parents due to the absence of another parent. This may lead to repressed anger and resentment towards that missing parent, and may also show sadness and loneliness. And some may miss that parent, like they said, in a resentful way, but then others, children, as they start to mature, would want to find that parent, want to know, what did they miss out on? What did I miss out on? Help me connect the dots. And let that other parent, the missing parent, know, this is what you missed out on in my life. These are some of the accomplishments I have. Why weren't you around? Why didn't you stay together? It's when children start to get older, they want to know those answers, right? And thinking back to Giovanni's case, we don't know why Giovanni wanted to reconnect with his father's people. Again, it was probably that void. Maybe there was something that happened. Maybe he wanted to know why Why weren't you there? Giovanni probably had questions and wanted answers. Giovanni probably wanted to know his cousins, you know, his family on that other side. We grow up wanting to know what's on that other side. It is a natural curiosity to know what and why. And better yet, why me? Why did I have to miss out on this? Why did, why, when my parents separated and they were estranged, why was I estranged from the family? These are questions that children want to know as they get older. And when you can't find out these answers, you do have that resentment. And that can and possibly will impact your relationships with your children. Impact if someone wants to meet and connect with you, you may not know how to love or be around that person out of a fear that that person may leave you like your estranged father, your estranged mother did. And so you will self sabotage. We talked about that last week, and intentionally push that person away because you feel like if I push them away, I'll hurt them before they hurt me. And that can actually continue to cycle on through your life. And then you'll find yourself in this period of loneliness. Let's go on. Let's jump in. And you remember I mentioned earlier about females having the greater problems. So we're going to start right there. So here we go. Girls had the most significant behavioral problems, followed by boys from single father households. In contrast, girls were well behaved in single mother households. And this could be a good reason. This may not be a good reason, but it says these children tend to hide more from their parents. Had higher rates of dropping out of high school and had higher rates of alcohol and substance abuse. And we're talking about the girls that are well behaved because chances are they're hiding stuff from their moms. You know, they're trying to figure out how to navigate life for themselves because again, their moms may not be available. Their moms may be, I'm just going to use this word, scorned from the prior relationship. And it's possibly that there's no healthy advice that can come from that mom because of whatever situation that she was in. Again, there's work that can be done at the mom level too, at the kids level. So they can definitely be hiding stuff and then have high rates of substance and alcohol use because of how they're feeling, and to help females, girls, deal with their feelings. Remember, we are emotional beings. And so we have to learn how to navigate our emotions. And sometimes our emotions can get out of control. And we do turn to substances to help us deal with it. It says boys from single mother headed families show impaired masculine development, sort to criminal behavior, and had difficulty controlling impulses due to the lacking of the male figure. It has also been reported that the experience of the divorce process is one that affects juvenile delinquencies. Teenagers of divorced parents compared to teens of non-divorced parents have a higher risk of developing mental disorders, risk of substance addiction, alcoholism, or getting pregnant. Such problems arise due to a lack of economic resources in mother-headed households and limited parenting resources in father-headed households. Higher rates of delinquency among children from single-parent households are due to attention seeking and yearning for affection. Parental divorce or separation, or if the parents were never together, right, is one of the parental factors related to the increased risk of suicide amongst young people. Studies have found higher rates of depression, suicidal attempts, and higher risk of suicide amongst girls compared to boys of divorced parents, whereas suicidal ideation amongst boys of divorced parents were common. Children also exhibit inattention problems, hyperactivity, and somatic symptoms, such as a headache. All right, we're almost in the home stretch, y'all. This was a long paragraph, but let me tell you, it's got some good old information. Young adults of divorced parents report more overall chronic stress, like social isolation, chronic worrying, and work discontent, loneliness, attachment anxiety, avoidance, and personality disorders than young adults whose parents still live together. Y'all, that's a lot. Again, we can say it can happen in any household, but it's just saying that the rates are higher in single parent households, right? It's not saying, I just want to reemphasize this. I'm not saying stay in unhealthy two-parent households to have increased better behavior with children, because guess what? That may not work either. Okay, if they see unhealthy, there's still an unhealthy presence, but we're just going off of what the statistics say. So this was a lot, and I wanted to talk about it because this impacts children's decisions to actually go bond with that bio parent that was missing. So, and we have to figure out how to navigate that. So now we've talked about the increased rates of anxiety, depression, substance use, suicide that can exist. I want us to explore some of the strategies on what we can do in these situations. Again, it doesn't eliminate the emotional experience that children may have when a bio parent is missing. That's not my intent. It doesn't eliminate, it does not minimize, but it can help our children navigate through these life experiences. And I cannot say it enough, and I want to say it again. I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but counseling or therapy can help you with this, because it is that neutral party that is involved, that is equipped with strategies and tools for your emotional toolbox that can not only help you in that moment, but it can help you to go from childhood to adulthood. And even when you're in adulthood, it can take whatever experiences that you experience, and it can help you navigate the rest of your adulthood. And if you find yourself in a situation to where it's hard and you don't know how to navigate, there are places and there are more increased interventions out there to help you. So please take advantage of that. And I have it at the end of my show about calling 988 if you do experience like emotional thoughts that are very intense and you feel like you don't want to be here. Please call 988. People are waiting to talk to you. You can text. People are waiting to hear from you. And it makes a difference once you are heard from a neutral party. You don't have anyone that's around trying to tell you how to feel, right? Most people come from a good point that they want to tell us how to feel or and how we should feel, whether they're, giving us good advice, or they giving you that you don't have to take that advice. They want to tell you that. Sometimes you just need that neutral space. Not only a neutral one, let me throw this in, a neutral, safe space. You got to feel space. You got to feel safe. Um, so you can navigate your feelings and they can teach you strategies. Therapy has to work, and you have to be willing to let therapy or counseling work for you, because your counselor, your therapist can give you billions of strategies, but if you're not feeling it, if you're not listening, and you know ding dang well that them strategies are not going to help you, and you just like, yeah, 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 that's the type of experience you're going to have. And you are only cheating yourself. And that's not fair to you. Look, I like you, and I want you to be the best version of you. So if you go to therapy, make sure you let it work. Okay? All right, I have some do's and don'ts on what adults can do to help. And really, adults can actually benefit from this as well, on what you can do to help if you're dealing with these voids and it's causing like emotional challenges related to missing that bio parent. All right. So I'll try to change some of the strategies because I'm reading from what adults can do to help their children. But if I see anything I can spin for adults, I will. So here are the do's. Ensure children and adolescents that they are safe and that their basic needs are addressed. That could be the same for adults as well. Allow them to be sad or cry. That goes both for children and adults. Children and adults can talk, write, or draw pictures about the event and their feelings. Art therapy is so helpful to help children and adults process what they are going through. They're able to actually draw it out. Art therapy is so therapeutic. I mean, it is a joy to be involved in those types of therapy. Limit exposure to repetitive news reports about traumatic events. Sometimes, if there's any type of shows that's on that's dealing with unhealthy relationships or relationships that are ending, or Lifetime, unfortunately, places like that, you may want to refrain from that type of media exposure until you seek a higher level of care if necessary. It says with children, let them sleep in your room for a short time or sleep with the light on if they're having trouble sleeping. There are some adults I even know that sleep with their lights on or leave the television on as well. Try to stick to routines. We talked a little bit about routines in the last episode, such as reading bedtime stories, eating dinner together, or playing games. So try to stick to some of those family routines. As an adult, try to stick to some of those healthy routines, even if that means continuing to like socialize with friends or family members. Continue doing that. Um, Help them, and this is what children feel in control by letting them make some decisions for themselves, such as choosing their meals or picking out their clothes. Just continuing doing what you're doing as an adult, as far as like control of planning what you want for dinner, planning what you want to wear. Pay attention to sudden changes in behavior, speech, language use, or strong emotions. That can go for children and adults. Pay attention to it. If, as an adult, if someone brings to your attention that you're acting strange or you seem to be kind of reserved, standoffish, you may want to pay attention to that, unless that's like a nosy relative or a nosy friend trying to get into your business so they can go spread your business. But I have to assume that you know the wisdom of each. um, let's see. Consult a healthcare provider. Get into some counseling or therapy, people. If new problems develop, or if you see that whatever emotions that you are experiencing is not getting any better. Again, the measure that I talk about using is using if it's whether or not it's impeding your daily activities. It's one thing to miss work because you're tired and you say you want to have a day off, that's fine. But if you have every desire to go to work, but you can't get out of the bed because it feels so heavy and you feel like everything is heavy, but this goes on for days and in weeks on end, and then you're not calling in, you're losing jobs, and you can't seem to keep a job, you may want to consult with a healthcare professional, i.e., counseling or therapy. And also, if you please seek a higher level of care if you've been having like flashbacks, just reliving the events possibly when your parents separated, or how you're missing your parents, having a racing heart or sweating, like, just feeling like worried, feeling on edge, like you just can't get a grip, especially if you've been like triggered by a show that you was watching on television, or if you're at the store and you see like a mom and a child embracing, and it's, starts, and you start feeling these symptoms. Being easily startled, numb, or being very sad or depressed. Please seek a higher level of care. Again, there's resources in the episode description. 988 is my go-to. It's easy. It's an easy number to remember. The hard part is challenging yourself to dial 988. Once you get someone on there, of course, it won't feel easy, but at least that's the first step to mental wellness. Here are some don'ts for children and adults. Don't expect for children and adolescents to be brave or tough. This is hard. Navigating our feelings related to a bio parent being not present in our life can be hard. So if we tell people to be brave, the brave part was actually sharing that these are the feelings that I'm having, or me having a desire to say that I want to reconnect with that family member. That is the brave part. But this part is just, it can be really challenging emotionally. So just having patience with that person. I had to get a little water, everybody. Don't make them discuss the event before they are ready. It takes time. Sometimes you can come talk to me. They may not know what to say. Or the person may have something to say and it may hurt your feelings, and it's not their intent. They are just trying to figure out how to navigate all of these feelings that they've been holding on to since that parent has not been in their lives. And they may even have resentment towards you for being there in their life. And some parents may say, "Oh, well, I never." Well, no, it's not that. It's that because you were there, they're upset with you, not because you've done anything wrong, but they're just mad because why couldn't the other parent be here? Why are you here? You know, our feelings can really do a doozy on us. I was trying to think of a word to say that, but it can really do a doozy on us to where we will start to react and express our emotions toward that parent that's there. Um, get don't get angry if they show the strong emotions. Just what I was talking about. They may yell at you. I'm not saying just, "Oh, that's okay. Keep yelling at me. Call me names." That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if those emotions are strong, just say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a moment." Really going to counseling and therapy can help parents too, because it'll help you navigate your emotions while you're trying to support your child dealing with their own emotions. And you'll be like, now hold on a minute. I think we need to take a time out. Like, you can put timeouts in effect with adults. Trust me, they work with kids, they can work with adults. Go see your counselor, your therapist, and talk about it. Don't get upset if like children starts to show bedwetting, acting out, or thumb sucking. Some kids actually go back to that place or in their mind to where that parent was present in their life or where that void begins. Sometimes they want to go back to these coping strategies. Can I get back to that place where my parent was actually present in my life? Even if it wasn't the best parent on the adult level, remember, children are egocentric. From their eyes, that parent was there. So I want to go back to that place. I want to find that sense of safety and security back with those thoughts. So don't be surprised if that child starts to regress. As adults, don't be surprised if an adult start to regress. They may tantrum, it may look a little bit different, but adults do have tantrums. Or if that behavior, if an adult behaviors get really bizarre, right? They can develop an addiction, not only to alcohol, drugs, to sex, to exercise, to eating, to gambling. It may come out that way. And the risk that they're taking may seem really reckless, definitely doesn't represent maturity. It probably looks more like immaturity. Lastly, don't make promises that you can't keep, such as you'll be okay tomorrow or you will go home soon. Don't make any type of promises. Anyone that's around you, that's why I like counseling and therapy. There, you don't make promises there. There's not a promise that you're going to feel better. There's not a promise that you're going to be happy. The quote unquote promises that you will experience in counseling and therapy is getting those strategies for your toolbox so you're able to navigate your emotions even when you in your darkest moments. The strategies you choose if you're in counseling or therapy, hopefully fingers crossed, will not be dark strategies. It will be appropriate ones. Now, will it make you feel good immediately? No, there's no guarantee. But at least it will keep you from sinking back into that super dark place. Okay? So, no promises that you can't keep. It's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt always, especially if you get some tools in your emotional toolbox. It'll help deal with that pain and help you navigate that pain. So it's a lot. There's more resources out there on Google. I'll put some of the articles that I found. Most of the articles that I find, they're research articles, and they always want to charge. I mean, no shade against people trying to get their bread, but golly, I mean, we charge for everything. So I'm going to put the links in the episode description, and hopefully it gives you the full article. But I do want to encourage anyone who may be experiencing that void from not having that biological parent there, or you believe this has impacted your relationships, your social well being, and you find yourself thinking about that mom or that dad or whoever was not around, and it's hard for you to share with anyone because, people may get their feelings hurt, for example. If you can't share with them, please go talk it out with a counselor or a therapist. Find a counselor or a therapist, someone that you'll feel safe with. I encourage you, if it's your first time going to counseling or therapy, or your second time because your first time was a bad experience because they didn't listen, or whatever the reason could be, I challenge you to do 2 sessions just to see how it's going to go. The first session may not give you, that that fair look as to whether or not this is going to be an experience. But go back again and just see. Again, the counselor's goal is to challenge you when you get to that place of challenging you. So if you start to feel some stuff coming up, that's not the reason to run. That means you got your darn good therapist. Now you can say, like, can we slow down on that because it's, making me feel uneasy. And your counselor or therapist should be able to give you a little break and some strategies on how to deal with that. But don't run from it. Does it hurt talking about it? Yes. Will you have some days where you may have some laughable moments or some moments that make you cry? Yes, yes, all of that, all the things can happen, okay? But stick with it. It does get better. Um, but go somewhere and do something about it and just know this has nothing to do with that person that stepped into your life when that void was there and did their best to nourish you, raise you, nurture you, so forth and so on, and provide that sense of security. Nothing against them. You just deserve to, if these are the emotions that you're having, you deserve to process them. And hopefully you can get those tools in your box that if you choose to meet that parent, if they're not in your life and you're reconnecting with them, that you will be able to navigate your emotions. This topic has been kind of heavy today. My hearts and my prayers go to Giovanni's family and friends and for the world that is experiencing this. I'm not for sure the latest details, how it's going to turn out, but I do encourage each and every one of you to just ignore the hype where people like, well, why didn't mom do this? Why didn't Giovanni do that? Giovanni sounds like wanted to connect back with the family. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong and what needs to be looked at is why somebody, if they did do something bad to him, why they did it. All right, y'all, this has been a heavy topic on good tea and reads. If you're again feeling kind of restless and down, please call 988. But get into counseling or therapy. I encourage you to go to Google, search whatever type of counselor or therapist you would like to find in your city or state, and they should pull up, give them a call, look at their website, read their bio, even go to the state website to see if they're board certified, make sure they don't have any complaints or anything, but do your homework. And then go and give them a try. Not one try, but try. Twice try. I encourage you to do that. But awesome. This has been great. We'll come back again and we'll do it one more again next week on another episode of Good Tea and Read. I am your host, Kimbralon B. Take care, do something great, and get in that self-care. Signing out.